Hey everyone, we have people rolling in now. Yep, see everyone joining. Do me a favor, first of all, to check and make sure if the chat works. I want a 1 for anyone currently using Search Atlas. Put a 1 in the chat. There's 1, 2, yep, we got some. Is that it? Okay, couple more.
A little bit of lag,
Come
yeah.
on, wake up, people. Everyone in here probably should be using Search Atlas. Let's go. What is
Number
it?
one
Okay,
AI
cool.
SEO platform of 2025 and
That's
2024.
right. We have Manick Bhan here. He is the CEO, CTO of Search Atlas. He's going to be sharing a lot of things that are super easy to do if you have Search Atlas. And if you don't have Search Atlas, it's still going to be applicable to you. The goal is to get found by ChatGPT and Claude so that they refer you instead of your competitors. I, since the last webinar, am a Search Atlas user, and I've started to roll out some of these things so that we're found by ChatGPT. Started to see that happening in some of my testing, which is really cool, and we want to share that value for you guys too. Now, another homework assignment for you guys. Put a 2 in the chat if you were here last time he spoke. So put a 2 in the chat if you heard the last talk. There was just so much to share. We decided to break it into 2 parts, and that's why we're here today. He has a more digestible version today that's going to recap things and give us action items going forward. Okay, we got some 2s. Good. So we have a good mix, Manick, of people who have Search Atlas and don't. Heard the first one, haven't heard the first one. Last item before I hand it over to you. We have a Q&A section. Make sure you guys find that in the bottom or top, depending of your Zoom. Open that Q&A. If you have any questions during this, put it there and I will relay those messages or the chat here just to engage. I'll be managing that as well. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Guys, normally the sequel to the movie is never as good as the movie, but in this case, the sequel's going to be even better.
Nice. Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see some familiar faces. For those of you that I don't know, so glad you're here. And let's rock and roll. So, I've kind of become the AI search guy in the industry. We've invented a framework, the first real flip framework that actually works in getting found on LLMs. And it's a bold claim, but it's true. And I will teach you guys what it is today. I work with a bunch of these brands on here. You probably know many of them. Some of them are partners of ours. We won a lot of awards. And, we've had a lot of success. Search Atlas Group is actually a lot of companies put together into one. I built all these together from 7 years ago. So Search Atlas Group doing over $30 million revenue a year includes our search agency Link Graph, also includes Signal Genesis, third largest newswire in the world, and Link Laboratory, which is the largest publisher exchange that you guys can publish to today to get found in LLMs. And so excited to show you guys how we got here, especially our journey through LLM visibility land. So we did do something called Petri dish SEO. If you guys have anyone in here taken a biology class and know what a Petri dish is? Yeah, Bryce?
Yep. Anyone in the
I
chat, let us know. Petri
let us
dish.
know. What's a Petri dish? And bonus points if you know what is the media inside a Petri dish. It's my kids' daycare. That's the best answer. That's so good. It's so good. Exactly, Brad. Ding, 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 ding. We got a winner. So can you imagine there's even Petri dishes online that we can do? Little experiments, little tests where we can publish content and just see what happens. And so we've been doing these experiments to understand, can we create an isolated digital environment in a search engine where we can do artificial signals and then see how the algorithm reacts? So it's like growing a bacteria in a Petri dish, except bacteria, you have sites. And this is kind of the process. And so one of the things that we made in our lab was a city that does not exist, but does exist now. It's called Snackachusetts, the hungriest state in the United States. And we had fun with it. Like we created these pages and published them and tried to see what would happen. We could convince ChatGPT and Google that this thing called Snackachusetts was a real thing. And we made up a harbor called Crumb Harbor and Munchie Waters. And, the SEO team really had fun with this. Normally they're cranking out SEO content. This time they're like being imaginative and they're like, can we do more experiments? We're like, sure, it's fine. This is fun. And so what happens is like Bing indexes it, Google indexes it, and all these sites you see here, these are sites that I control. These are like my Petri dishes where I run experiments. We have hundreds of them. And you can see that we pretty much created this narrative here. And we did the same thing on Google. And we learned a lot about what works and how do we train the LLM to think the way we want it to. And that got us thinking. We ran more and more tests. This is our data. These are the results that we've been getting. This is the results for one of our clients in I think the largest plumbing services brand in the United States. I can't say who, but they're really focused on AI search, and we doubled their visibility, which was so much fun. And lots of case studies here. This is for an agency with 152 ortho clinics, deploying the technology, and then the response we saw in Search Console. So straight from the horse's mouth. And this is just auto deploying on a website. It didn't include the local side. If you're prone to seizures, look away. Because we also did this test on Google Maps to see what would happen. And so now we have like, I don't know, infinite case studies in local SEO land as we've automated SEO for local. And it works on pretty much every type of business and industry, e-commerce. These are all Shopify sites. It works for keywords like rain. This is for one of my best friends in high school. Massive traffic hockey stick and got them ranking #1 on Google for rain, which is cool. Lawyers in Texas for ourselves. So hold on to your butts. Anyone know what this is from? I'm going to be giving out some hyperdrive credits if you know who that guy is. Yes,
There we
Jurassic
go.
Park. Amazing. Brad, follow up with me. I'll give you some free backlink credits so you can get some authority built to your site, my friend. So what was really exciting is through Search Atlas, we've created the largest experiment in SEO of all time, where we're automating SEO on now it's like over 65,000 sites, but at the time we ran this, it was 42K sites. And this is what we are doing through it. And I can show you that product. I can show you auto in a second, but this is what happened that we observed. This is the mean. And this is some more of like the lab data just to see like which aspects of what we're fixing on the site resulted in change to ranking keywords to impressions. You could see some great insight we learned here and that this works on all kinds of sites. So there's a lot of data, but just really what we looked at there was just seeing what is the impact of deploying the strategy in search. Like it works on all search engines. And the thing that's important is that every search engine is actually different. Um, and by the way, solutions compatible with absolutely every CMS out there that you can connect to. So that's really fun. Um, and in the challenge that I ran, we basically taught the framework that explains day one, day two, day three, day four, like how do we actually do this strategy in a very hands-on kind of a way. Today, I'm going to digest for you the key takeaways from that, and so I'll try to keep parts of it high level. I might skip through slides. If you're interested in it, go back and watch the recording or pop a question and I'll answer it. But today I just want to give you guys something useful. And first is like a frame of why are we here and talking about this, even though Google owns search. A lot of people say they're Google Maxis or Google Maximalists that say Google's going to win this game. They're #1, they're #2, they're not 3, 4, or 5. But this is the piece of the story that they're missing. Look at those growth rates. Like chat is growing. I hardly use Google. And I'm a guy that ranks people on Google, and I much prefer ChatGPT now. So the times they are changing. And a lot of people think that it's just all SEO, but it's really not. Because when you look at the ranking signals by search engine, they're so different. Um, Today, we're going to do something with this information, but I just want to get you to understand how these search engines are different. Google obviously is built on their own data. They have their own real-time web data, and it updates, uh, this web data updates continuously. Their models, they ship out update every 4 to 6 months. But ChatGPT gets its data from Google and Bing. Claude gets it from somewhere else called Brave Search, and Perplexity is also a combination, and they all have their own different models. And so what this means is they all have slightly different results and different ranking factors. So a universal system that we created, it's called the guided inquiry framework, is the framework that Search Atlas invented. And it's this process of where we build trophy artifacts and then we lead the AI search engines to them. Okay. So this is the process. We first build and we publish this trophy content. We can do this on site, we can do this off site, we can do this on our existing landing pages. We then promote that content to be indexed. We call it primary indexation, which means either Bing or Google indexing it, because they're the guys that are the RAG provider. They're the web search provider. They give their data to ChatGPT to do their web search, and all the other LLMs, they're using a mashup because the data is so good, right? So we got to get indexed. If we can't get indexed in Bing and Google, then we can't play. So I'll show you in a second that, like how we do that in Search Atlas for you. And then guided inquiry, this is the process where we help and teach the LLMs and create knowledge discovery. Think about how there's some things in the world that the LLMs can only learn about if someone asks. But without that ask, there was no answer. We'll talk about that. And then a process that we call narrative induction, where we create synthetic queries and we stimulate the index. And then the final is a cognitive reinforcement layer. Pretty heady. That's why I said, hold on to your butts. So first part, trophy content. Let's go through it. This is us creating authority with our content, establishing our identity, speaking to all the amazing things that someone could really know about our business. And this is really how we teach the LLMs and the search engines who we really are and why we're awesome. So that's this process. And there's 10 types of trophy content. And it needs to be published both on your site and externally for it to really work the best. The core trophy content are going to be reviews about ourselves, comparisons ourselves to other companies, other brands that we're competing with, listicles where we're rounding up the best of. That's the core of the strategy. And then there's also secondary trophy formats that are a little bit more specific. So that's awards or founder stories, any kind of data reports, good press. You can create grids or infographics about your business data, events that you were at or that you've done. All those are important to the LLM because this is the story of humanity. They want to know this stuff. This is how they also compare when they do their query fan out, which is a process where they're actually not just searching for what you searched for. They find a bunch of other things that they should search for to get the best answer and then do it real time and then give you a much more comprehensive answer. So, for example, reviews would be, you know, positioning us as the number one solution, right? So, review, the number one SEO platform for agencies. Actually, how many agencies in here right now? Curious. So I think CloseBot is mostly agencies, right?
Yeah. Should we get yeah, let's get a me or a one. Either one. Let's see agencies.
If you're an agency, a one or a me.
Yeah, we got a lot there. I
Nice.
was just looking at our LLM visibility because I haven't looked at it since I implemented some of the stuff that you're going to be talking about. And yeah, so you said it takes like 10 to 14 days before it starts, right? So I did it and then I just kind of forgot to check until now, and I'm getting some visibility, which is really cool
Sweet.
to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, it's great. And what you'll find is that the type of businesses that are coming in, we're seeing this. At our agency, we're seeing this at Search Atlas. The type of leads that are coming in through this channel are totally different than like the search channel. I think they're way more, they got way bigger budgets. Let's just put it that way. These are the creme de la creme. So we talked about these trophy formats, guys. And Bryce, did you implement this type of content on your site?
Listicles, yes.
Awesome.
Reviews, yes.
Awesome.
Comparisons, just start like, yes, a little bit. And then, yeah, FAQ type stuff.
Perfect. That's great. That's awesome. And guys, look, if you want to shoot the moon, you do all this. If you want to get started, just start here. Okay. You don't have to do, I'm just trying to give you guys the full roadmap of how to think about this. I also want to make it accessible so that all of us can do one thing in every one of these stages so you guys can actually get real results. So for primary indexation, this is just getting our content indexed. Because again, if it's not indexed, it's not found. And so you got three things that we can do about that. What we can do is we go into this is Search Atlas, and in here in auto, you have the option to enable indexation. So you basically are connecting directly to Google and Bing's Index Now, and this will push the data directly in to the search engine for you. I think we send out 250 pages per day on your behalf, and that solves most of the indexation problems. If you really get stuck, there's another option where, especially for offsite content, you can use the indexer. And this lets you take any URL on the internet at all that you want to get indexed and submit them as a batch of up to 100 and just get them indexed.
When did
So,
you add the Bing index now?
oh, it was about a couple weeks ago. We've been launching a lot of stuff, a lot of new features. Yeah. Bing was a
Yeah,
big one.
so you guys, this stuff, they move fast.
We do. We do. Highly caffeinated team. Um, so then, looking at this, like, how do we track it? Like, so in GA4, you can use this regex, but you can also just get this in Search Atlas will give you that data. In the report builder here, this is like a full sum report of performance and GA4 we got in here. We got GSC data. We've got oh, that's a nice one. Look at that nice rank tide. Always, always, always up and to the right. Right. Of course, guys, like this works so well. We do this for ourselves. And man, we're like page one on Google for all the keywords we care about. It's just insane. Like AI SEO, SEO automation. It's pretty cool. So, but you can look at your LLM visibility in here too, and just track and benchmark that. Um, I'll actually enable it right here. This is actually not my account. This is the one we're demoing live account. So let's pop it in. We have it. Yeah. So you can bring it into this report. There's also a standalone LLM visibility tool. Bryce, that's probably the one that you're using the most, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. But you can also track the sentiment in here and see how things are changing and define your strategy. Like we'll talk about this. This is the guided inquiry process down here in action where we're actually implementing it and we're seeing the impact of it. So quite it's amazing how this teaches the LLM everything you need them to understand. And you can also track the crawl activity. So once you do this, you'll also see a spike in crawlers coming to your site, and you'll see who's coming, when did they come, what pages did they visit, and this is totally integrated all in through auto. So when you get it
I
set up,
saw a
you'll see
huge
this
spike.
big spike.
Massive.
Man, we should do this again, but next time we look at the CloseBot data, you know, if you're willing, if you're down with that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's how soon after you implemented did you see the crawlers pick up?
Like a week, less than a week, I think. Because it was that 5 day challenge and I did it over the course of like 10 days, I guess. Because it was a lot.
Yeah.
So somewhere within that 10 days.
Okay. So typically, yeah, there's like the process is you implement the change, you then see the crawl activity pick up as the search engines notice there's a change and then get excited and then they keep crawling more because they think you've got good stuff changing on your site. And then you see the rankings improve and then you get more clicks and then you get more revenue, right? So that's the order of operations. So let's talk guided inquiry. All right. Before we get into it, I just want to see how many of you guys got step one and step two. Did it make sense? The trophy content process and then the indexation process so that that trophy content gets found. How many of you
Recap that
guys,
again. Recap that again for us.
yeah, recap is trophy content. We're talking about all the reasons, specific facts, story around why our business is awesome that we publish on our site and off our site. And there's 10 formats. That's trophy content. There's also some semantic knowledge packs and things that you can do to enhance your homepage that really help. And then the second part of it was the indexation, getting those pages indexed so that what you're putting out there is being found.
And if they don't have Search Atlas, how do they find out if their site's being indexed?
Well, you can take your page and just copy the URL and put it into Google. And if the page doesn't show up, then it's not indexed. But you'd have to do it manually for Google and Bing. Yeah,
Right,
actually.
right.
Yep.
Cool. And then that
And
trophy content, that's strong homepage, making sure you're talking about what the product does and the features it offers and having reviews on there, but also off-page stuff. So making sure people are posting reviews in various platforms. I saw that like my second highest thing for the LLM visibility was G2. There's YouTube comments, like, so people need to be talking about you everywhere.
exactly. You really need to get found. So, here you can see some examples of how we've used press releases for this and third-party tool review sites. So what we do is we use our integrated signal genesis platform that lets us publish this kind of content. And I think this was like $25, right? And now this is an article teaching Google about who we are. This is our trophy content, right? This is a story about a product we launched. And you'll see like all that stuff is showing up in the results. You can also use link building exchange. We have one inside Search Atlas that I can show where you can literally pick from a database, a huge database of sites. Um, you know, literally you can get access to over 51,000 sites. Where did we put it? I'll have to find it. But yeah, the link laboratory exchange has been huge. And then also Quest, where you can basically reach out to the people who are ranking on Google. I'm sorry, ranking in ChatGPT and reach out to them, like send emails to them. We get a 5.5% hit rate on this. So we send 100 emails. We get 5.5 on average sites that actually add us into their content. Normally we have to pay them, but it gets us in the content and then that drives the consensus answer, right? Because what's happening here, this may be helpful. Oh, there's like this raw data that goes into training the base model for ChatGPT, but real time they're pulling their data from Google and from Bing. And so what we want to do is get information on Google and Bing that ChatGPT can index and use to come up with its answer. So all we're doing is we're giving them the information so that they can come up with an answer that includes you. Okay. And there are some practical steps in here where, we can verify our indexability. We can see if we're indexed by this service called Common Crawl. Um, there's a bunch of on-page strategies that you guys can do to make sure you're fully optimized. Auto in Search Atlas will do all of this stuff for you, including this stuff too. This content you're going to have to create, and you can AI generate it and publish it to your site through the platform. And the other thing that we learned is like freshness is very important. Like you want this to be fresh
Oh,
content. Yeah.
so you make sure we're doing this all the time. Would it be helpful
Mhm.
um, for people to just gain visibility? And I just did this to go into ChatGPT, turn on the search function, and then like I searched CloseBot for lead qualification AI and just see where it's pulling that information from.
Yeah. Yeah. You can do that.
And
Um,
it's all Search Atlas stuff. Well, 90% of it. There's one YouTube video, but other than that, it's like the press releases. Yeah, it's a lot of press releases.
yeah.
So that helps.
Press releases, they're news sites. They're one of the most commonly found sites inside ChatGPT and citations. So it's really publishing to your site and using the press releases is probably the easiest way to get your story out there. And it's cheap. Like the press release is like $20. So,
And
pick up
Cloud right? That too.
Cloud Stacks as well. You'll see them ranking on
Yeah.
page one of
I
Google.
see. Yeah, I see some of those too.
Yeah.
And like you can
So
do this stuff. Here's what I was finding before, just insight from someone who wasn't using you and then was using you. I was doing all this stuff, but it took so much time that like to, yeah, different site for this, different site for this, for this, like just randomly reaching out, emailing people to try to get on their site and do an exchange of backlinks, just trying to build a relationship with people and sharing backlink stuff. I was like, okay, I can't do this. Like I literally needed a full-time person to do that and I just couldn't afford it. But then I could do it by myself. It's just like an hour a week. I have a task and I just go in and I have this stuff I'm supposed to do and I just do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, doing this stuff used to take like a really well-trained massive team to execute. And now you've got pretty much everything that you need to win. And the thing is, remember, yeah, Search Atlas is a research company for sure. We're super nerdy. We're trying to figure this out. We're always trying to crack the code deeper and better. But the point is so that we can make it automated and simple and easy inside the platform and win in this new era of search. Yeah.
If you had to
Um,
pick, and I don't want to draw you too far off course, but what is the most important thing for people to do to be found by the LLMs? What is the thing?
the and that's the thing is like, well, first the thing is, do you have a website, right? Look at your website as your information artifact. Is that content out there? If there's no reason why anyone would recommend your business, if you haven't explained it in English or whatever language on your site, then the LMs won't have that opinion. So
So the
you have to
most
create
important
the
thing is the
narrative,
recommendations,
the content. It all begins with that. You got to
recommendation
do the
content.
trophy content. You got to start with number one with the trophy content. Everything else comes after. Yeah. The guided inquiry process only works if you've done the trophy content. Guided inquiry, really quick, is basically, you said you went into ChatGPT and you searched something about CloseBot.
Correct.
That's important, right? Because first there is darkness and then there is light. Guided inquiry turns on the light. So the prompts are like a flashlight. They reveal the knowledge to the LLM, one prompt or one beam at a time. So when you ask a question, it's like a semantic breadcrumb leads the model into creating its own memory around your prompt. Everything gets pushed in. So it basically teaches the model learns. This was an important thing when they were building ChatGPT that they realized they needed to actually get the model to learn information from its own data, to like reason about it. And so that's kind of what we're doing with that guided inquiry process. Now, the cool thing is we're in Search Atlas, we can actually, in the LLM visibility tool, put in all these prompts. Those prompts are actually sent into the web UI for ChatGPT. So it's as if someone actually searched that prompt. So when you're setting up LM visibility, you're actually starting the knowledge discovery process. Yeah.
That makes sense. We have some questions. Is now an okay time for some questions?
Yeah, we can rock some questions.
Um, I currently sync my Google business reviews on my website. Does that count as trophy content? So
Yeah.
I assume they use like a plugin.
Yeah, that's good. It's good information to put on the site for sure. That's a good start. But Google and Gemini at least already knew about that stuff. But ChatGPT, and they probably do as well because they're indexing Google Maps. So that's definitely a start.
Okay, cool. What percentage of these features are available directly in the GHL version? I'm sure you get that question a lot.
Oh, that's a good one. Good question. So all of the press release, link laboratory exchange, authority building products, we've been really pushing them to try to integrate it into the integration. If you guys want that, please tell them so that they'll accelerate that timeline. But that's not in the GHL version. But auto is like you can't use all of it, but you can use most of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
The indexation is not actually in the GHL version, so you can't do the primary and primary indexation. No, that module's not there.
Someone else asked, can this local SEO map service be white labeled to businesses by agencies
Hmm.
like us?
Yeah, sorry guys. I should have made that abundantly clear. Search Atlas is a platform for agencies for sure. So there's a whole white label side to it where you go in and you just plug in your where you want Search Atlas to be on your site. So dashboard.youragency.com. You can plug in your agency logo, your colors. It has a whole sub account and agency focused experience in there. And so even auto, the name auto, you can change that to your whatever you prefer, whatever you want. Um, but it was made for agencies. Yeah. So the
Great.
entire local suite, we didn't even look at the local suite today. I'm sure a ton of you guys work with local businesses, automating the GBP, getting rankings, heat map rankings for the Google Business Profile, citations, all that stuff's in there. Yeah,
Okay, good. That takes care of the questions for now. There are some others that are coming in, but
cool,
yeah, proceed down the LLM path.
sweet. So you guys want to look at some research? Does that sound
Yeah.
fun? Some original research that we did. So we have this huge data panel because we were processing tons and tons of responses. Um, for businesses. And now this data panel is probably twice or thrice the size. So this is, it keeps growing. But we have to publish this data like in snapshots and do the analysis. So it's 5.5 million, only 5.5 million results, which is enough to really learn a lot. And what you might be wondering is like what the heck do these charts mean? This is us figuring out that it's not the big sites that rank in this case, this one is ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini, right? Each of these. And here we're looking to see, is there a correlation between the traffic of the site and being found in the LLM like, as a citation? And really, there's not. It's not really that much. You don't really see that much. And same thing with all the other authority scores. And so it teaches you, like, actually, so it's not like Google. It's a totally different system. So that means we can publish our trophy content to smaller sites and still have a huge impact. They don't exactly know the difference between a NewYorkTimes.com versus another like mid-tier blog. They might weight them differently. They probably do, but the weighting differently is actually not that significant is what that data shows us. Because if New York Times is treated as like sacrosanct and getting in there was so much more impactful for rankings than, let's say, like me publishing you on Search Atlas or Bryce publishing you on CloseBot or you publishing to one of the press release services sites or one of the guest post sites, then we would see that. But what this data is showing us is that actually that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is probably more the freshness that if you publish something new, you win. Huge bias, especially in ChatGPT, is what we learned. Gemini has less bias around fresh content. Same thing with Perplexity, but OpenAI, ChatGPT, these guys really want the latest updated content, the freshest of the fresh. They don't want the old stuff. Like Gemini and Perplexity are okay with that, but OpenAI is very focused on the new content. So that's an advantage. And the other thing that we can learn is that every provider is going to play to their own economic best interest. So Google always promotes YouTube, right? Gemini promotes Google. Gemini promotes YouTube. All of their own assets are promoted, and because OpenAI is borrowing, let's say, data, they're paying for it, but they're from a third-party provider, but they're using Google's data. Oh, ChatGPT also has a Google bias. Whatever Google's biases are, so does ChatGPT. Perplexity, less so. So that's kind of interesting that, like, if we're focused on ranking better on Google, it's also going to help us rank better on chat, but also that if we make sure we're visible on YouTube, because it's an important platform for Google, that'll also help us get found in ChatGPT. Okay. Um, Also, to kind of tell the story, we were analyzing how often are we seeing these AI overviews, and you can see here that there is this like trajectory where by next year we're projecting AI overviews being found on Google. So figuring out this AI search stuff is kind of important, especially if you're creating informational content, because we're seeing a lot of these AI overviews on text and an increasing amount on commercial too. So they're slowly but surely moving AI overviews into more parts of search. And we're also seeing ads start to appear in those AI overviews as well. And I think that's going to only go up. Here's a fun one. What percentage of queries on Google do you guys think Google doesn't make any money on, where there's like no ads? They get no revenue from people typing in that into Google. What percent of searches do they make $0 on? Is it A, 50, B, 30%, or C, higher than 80%. Dominique
If they make
says,
no money, I'd probably say the lower one,
you'd
B,
say 30.
that they make
So
no money on.
yeah. You think 30% because you think they're making so much money and they're making money from a lot of searches. I think a lot of people probably think B. The truth is it's actually C.
What?
It's isn't that insane?
Yeah.
And so like what that means is they're what they're doing now is they're saying there's this blind bid system where they want you to just give them your budget and they will decide what you're going to buy. And I think this is super dangerous. Giving them the keys, not a good idea. And so, in general, as marketers this year heading into 2026, right? We're almost at the end of the year. We got to evolve our mindset. First, people were just talking about SEO. And then some people, oh, SEO is dead. It's all about GEO now. Probably over, exaggeration. But really, we got to be thinking holistic search, which also includes PPC because we know Google is just, they're going to figure out how to make us pay to get that visibility and traffic. ChatGPT, they said they were never going to add ads into the platform, but they are adding ads and it's going to happen next quarter. So we got to also prepare for that. And obviously, we're doing that in Search Atlas with our PPC platform. But it's just important that we as marketers, like, and agency owners that are helping businesses, that we are in both channels. We need to be full holistic search. And where this industry is going to be moving next year is focusing on agentic clicks. Um, some people call this ghost clicks because it's not a real person. I actually just bashed like the ChatGPT Atlas browser and Dia and Comet because they're actually hiding and saying that they're Google Chrome when they're actually not. And so right now they're trying to basically make the AI browsers invisible to your analytics. Like you won't know. And there's going to be a ton more agentic activity happening. Like this is projection of agentic GDP in digital commerce. Like, look at that. This just tells you that this is the future, right? Of where it's all going. Good thing you guys are working on this now, right? So um, that's that. There's obviously a lot more to say on the technical side. If you guys really want to get into the technicals on this and actually spend more time on it, we do these challenges. The next one we're going to do is in December, December 15th to be exact. And then I'm also going to be doing a 12 days of Search Atlas where we're going to launch a new product every single day. And I'm super excited about that. We've got a ton of new stuff that's coming out. If you guys like this stuff and you want to jam and see like what we're releasing, it's going to be an amazing new platform for our platform. You can check me out on YouTube, the Search Atlas platform on YouTube, and our LLM Visibility Challenge. I can put a link to it in the chat if you guys want to join and learn more about this stuff.
But the challenges are great too. But buckle up. Like when you show up for those challenges, it has to be you close everything else. And they're like 2 hours a day, right?
They are, yeah. They're about 2 to 3 hours. And the next one we're going to do, we're also going to make it to help everyone actually implement. We're going to have sessions before the challenges where you're going to work with an implementer to help you, do certain things in your account more on a one-on-one capacity. So the next one is going to be the best one we've ever done. We've done so far three or four of them. And the best feedback, came from this gal in Australia. She said, this was like signing up for like online singing lessons and having Lady Gaga show up. Like she compared me to Lady Gaga. And I was like, awesome. That's a first.
And then it's like, and you're gonna sing. Like,
No, I'm not going to sing.
no, but like there you are expecting people to show up and do the thing. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you show up and
You're
do
gonna
it.
sing. Yeah, you're gonna show up, you're gonna do it. Like we're gonna tell you what to do, and you're gonna do it so you get the results, you get the case study. Because that's what this is all about. Like we're trying to basically build a case study machine.
Okay, so rewind a little bit. I'm brand new to this, or I'm just not happy with my visibility. Brand new.
Mhm.
What do I do? I have no time in the day. I'm busy running the business. I want to make sure what I do creates impact. I have a site up.
Mhm.
I
Okay, you
searched
got a site.
Google. I don't know if it's there because it might be so low that I can't find it.
Yeah. Step one, it's the first thing you got to do is you have to get your site under control. You got to fix your SEO on page for your website. Auto will do that for you. There's a I'm feeling lucky button in there. You can just smack that and it will deploy all the fixes to everything to the site. And that will create an immediate response. Bryce, I know you did that and you saw that immediate traction, just like those case studies. That's the first thing you got to do. That will have an impact and like show you an impact to your business right away.
And for those of you who are like, man, I don't know about another subscription. First of all, it's worth it. Second of all, what that does, go in and optimize every heading. Go in and make sure every image has alt text with like your keywords that you're trying to rank for in there. Meta keywords, subheading text, like make sure your
Alt
blogs are formatted
text,
with
internal
headings and
linking.
subheadings. Yep.
Mhm.
Make sure you're doing internal linking to your other content. Um, that's all
It, it,
stuff
it,
that you can do.
yeah. It just makes the search engine when they, and then it also pushes your content to the search engine so it gets picked up. And that's important because when you start pushing the content into Google and into Bing, and you start to make these changes to the site, your site is now fresh. Think about it, guys. Like when was the last time you worked on that site and made an important change? Your team is probably, if you guys are doing SEO right now, your team is probably doing it manually and you're making changes on the site slowly and maybe one change a week, or maybe one change a month. What about 1,000 changes in like 24 hours? What does that do? Right?
Can we, and totally up to you, should we open up mine? And I have some auto suggestions. Should we just do some?
Let's do some. Yeah.
Is that cool? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just so they can see. And then you can see like what you can do, even if you don't have this, what you should go manually do if you're not going to do this. So here I am, like fully out there. Here's where the CloseBot site sits. And I have
Nice.
published some stuff. So I have some stuff that I should do. So I like to work top to bottom. And I'm just going to talk through how I think about it. That might be insightful for you too. And you stop me if I'm doing anything wrong. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to work top to bottom. Title tags, come over here. See, there are 6 not deployed. Let me just click over to not deployed. So here's our suggested fix, the original. What I need to do is select all of these. And I'm going to AI generate. So this gives what your suggested fix is. It's going to start out blank. You need to generate them.
Exactly.
And then this will give you guys a feel too for what you should be shooting for. It's a combination of like length and keywords and
Yeah. AI improvements over. Yep.
yeah. So I like to just be like, yeah, I like scroll through it for a little bit. And as long as it just overall looks good, I do select all on this page and then deploy. And then that one's good. Titles is covered. And then next I would go down to meta descriptions and then headings length and image alt text. And that's all we do, right?
That's it. Yeah. Once you knock out all the stuff, all the fundamentals, that is step one. And you can do this in a day. Get through here, populate your suggestions. CloseBot's a bigger site. Some of you guys, the clients you're
Oops.
working with, they may be a bit smaller. But that's what we want to do in here. And then once we've worked through this stuff, the next thing we would do is content strategy. Let's publish new content. Let's build new blogs. And oh, by the way, we're going to be launching an AI page builder um, in on December 12th.
What?
So yeah, you'll be able to push beautiful SEO optimized landing pages and PPC landing pages to the top 20 CMS platforms.
And
So
you already do content generation, blog generation, but this is landing page generation.
correct. Yeah. Landing pages was the next step. It's basically like a clone of Lovable, except it's only focused on websites. It's only focused on websites. So no
No
iPhone
apps.
apps and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's dialed for SEO with optimized everything and also CRO for conversion. So for those of us, I mean, all of us should be caring also about, okay, we built the landing page. How many, what's the conversion rate on your homepage for real, right? Are you guys doing exit intent pop-ups? Do we have sticky navs, sticky footers? What are we doing with that page to get more people to convert, right? So it bakes in some of that stuff. But that's the second piece. And then we would do off page. We'd build some authority, right? The cool thing is you get these four holistic SEO pillars: content authority, technicals, UX, and behavior. And if you see your authority is low, you need to build more authority. So knowing that, then you would go. So CloseBot's at a 61 out of 100. So this is comparing CloseBot to its competitors. And so it's doing pretty good, but there's more room to boost that and grow that. So
And it tells me what tools I need to use there, the authority builder, auto link building.
exactly. And in auto link building, it's actually really cool. Can you imagine we built a system you can get free backlinks from other businesses, right? Most people in SEO, and I don't know how deeply you guys go into SEO, but click on Wildfire in there. So this is a way that you can actually build backlinks to your site by giving backlinks to other people. It's a give to get. We don't monetize it. It'll be free forever. And basically what you can do here is you can decide, I want to give links to these guys, and in exchange, you can get backlinks from other businesses. And that you can see right here. Outlinks from CloseBot. Looks like Bryce has given backlinks to a couple different businesses, some different digital marketing related firms. So there's a relation.
Yeah. And I
AI
go in
powered
here,
CRM.
I don't want to do my competitors, right?
No,
Right.
you
So
don't want to do your direct.
if they happen to show up on here, I like to just like click in, see what it is, see if it seems like a competitor of mine, and then approve.
Right. Definitely.
And then
So you,
here, once you've done enough of those, you earn the right to request.
links from other people.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about this is like these are sites that may be linking to just a few people. Swiftlane, that's my friend's company, right? So they're a real like show people who they are. Click on that site for a second. Look at this. This is a VC backed company in the Bay Area
And they're
that is,
backlinking to me.
and they're backlinking to you.
Oh, yeah.
Insane, right? This was the stuff of dreams, like being able to do business deals with businesses, other brands online, and do partnerships like that where you can get backlinks from such awesome, powerful domains that literally never link to anyone, right?
And you can do technically, this is the stuff that I was trying to do. Like I would reach out to Swiftlane, I'd find their contact person and then say like, hey, I'll backlink to you if you backlink to me. And they don't respond.
They don't respond. Nice thing about this is that they get your backlink request and they can approve you. Like my friend Saurabh or someone from his team said, yes, sure, CloseBot's cool. And they approved it. So we're not like everyone in this, it is both sides are saying yes. They're both opting in.
So can you talk me through this? So this is super helpful too. I've seen this help. Like when I'm in here, outlinks from CloseBot. Should I pick, I want to pick a non-competitor. Does it matter their domain power? Should I try to link to someone with high domain power, or does my link to matter as much? Do I maybe want to do a lower one?
The good question. In general, it's better to link to higher quality, more authoritative websites. And so if you're just starting out, your tier is lower. You're just like the sites that you might be linking to are just not as powerful, and that's okay. But once you're a site like CloseBot, like you have to make sure you're linking out to reputable quality sites. I wouldn't link out to, a domain power one site that has no traffic.
Because then does that increase my potential? Oh, my camera shut off. My spam potential?
It
Does that
can.
increase that?
It can, yeah. It can, especially if that site, like, if it's a gambling site or, I mean, these are all like legitimate businesses, right? Like they're all paying for the platform. So these aren't just random, junky sites usually. But there are people on here that are just starting out with their websites, right? Maybe some clients are just building their business for the first time. You generally want to link to a winner versus like a up and comer.
Okay, that makes sense. So what I'm gathering is this LLM search, it's very similar to SEO. The difference would be maybe a strong push on the recommendations for your product in other locations too. Like just the
Mhm.
word, it's almost like those referrals outside of your app are backlinks. Like if someone says, yeah, CloseBot's amazing in G2, even though that's not linking back to me and my site, that matters, that referral link back.
Yes, dimension matters a lot.
But that anchor of SEO is the anchor.
Yeah. I would say this is still an SEO driven strategy. The other layer that's not an SEO driven strategy is the guided inquiry process where we actually plug in the topics, the prompts that we want the LLMs to know about. That's the only thing I think that makes it quite different than like classical search. It's a big difference.
What do you mean by that part?
So when you go into the LLM visibility module in here,
Should I just go in
and
there?
yeah, pop in there. It'll be in site metrics. Yeah,
And I have other tools that I'm watching in there. Don't mind that.
cool. And so in here, basically these questions, these topics that we're creating here, if we put in certain topics, this is teaching the LLM something. So the kinds of topics I would ask is, what are the awards CloseBot has received in 2025? Right? I would lead them back to my trophy content. So the topics I'm plugging in lead them back to the trophy content that I publish on my site and off my site. Does that make sense?
So where do I put that in?
So
The
you
camera's
go up
back.
and you go to topics and queries, right?
Topics,
Oh, it's at the top, the fourth tab.
topics and queries.
Hmm.
Yep.
And then manage queries.
Yep.
And here we can add new topics. So I would say like trophy content. I type in trophy content dash and then reviews. So we're going to lead them in this topical cluster toward our reviews that we created. And so now you have to hit save. This part's a little weird, but you hit save and then you open up, let's see. Yeah, trophy content reviews
Right
right
here.
there. Yep.
Yep. So I added like a category that I'm watching
Hmm.
and then put in a query.
Yeah. And the query, yeah, what are the reviews that uh, CloseBot has received in 2025? So what's the LM going to have to do to answer that question?
Yeah. So now I can watch. And so you guys on the back end, you're running it across different models and seeing what's returned and more importantly, where it's getting that information and the sentiment behind it. Like, is it saying actually they've received poor reviews and you shouldn't use them? Like
Well,
seeing if it's going to see that.
it will see that in the sentiment tab. Like it
Right.
will find out. But obviously the reviews are great, right? And
Right.
so
But if it did say that, this would like catch it.
it would show you that in the sentiment. But like the powerful thing about this is that because you asked the question And Search Atlas will ask the question for you to the LLMs on a constant basis. What happens is the LLMs learn that knowledge and it gets diffused. Remember, the more people that ask the LLM a question from their account, the more the LLM retains that information. So that's what we did there. And
Mm.
so the mere fact that we asked the question, right, that's that guided inquiry process. It was dark and now it's light, right? They get your reviews in.
So people with Search Atlas should go do this ASAP. Put in all the things that you want people to ask. And so at least you're asking, and then that kind of sparks its interest in you. But also, if you don't have that, probably go into Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, and ask about your platform.
Yes. And ask your friends and ask your mom and
Ask your
ask
friends
your
and your mom to go in
babysitter.
there and ask ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it
Wow.
works. Um, and the interesting thing about it is it's like with some models like DeepSeek, it's so easy. Like it's so easy to manipulate DeepSeek. ChatGPT is much harder, but it works on every LLM.
This is fantastic. Um, we have a question. When you're deploying the fixes, are these automatically getting updated on your website with auto?
Yes, 100,000%. That's the whole idea. Like this isn't about figuring out what's wrong. It's about fixing it automatically with AI. Yeah.
What's the best tool your platform offers to help grow the reach of my real estate website? And I think we probably have answered since then. That was like
Mhm.
15 minutes ago.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely would be auto, like without a doubt. But actually, you said real estate website. Like, I don't know what local you're in, but if you're a local business, if you have a brick and mortar, right? If you're like a local realtor, for example, you got to make sure you get found on Google Maps. That's like critical. And so for that, GBP Galactic, that's what that's all about. So
Yes. For your Google business page, managing
yeah.
that. That improves your SEO a lot too. When you have a brick and mortar and you master your Google business page.
Yeah, let me show you guys a business that we average rank one. We literally got Clowns for Kids in New York. They've been working with us for so long. Great, great guy, Dino. And they're in New York, and they do party rentals. So basically, GBB Galactic tells you what changes you need to make, and then makes them to the business profile for you, and then also shows you your rankings. So, you can see how they're ranked. They're killing it out here. And then you can compare and see who's behind them. What does that look like for this other guy who's in the same market? So it's a local SEO suite. And there's a lot of things you can do in here to make the business rank better. You can also build these citations that really establish your business and the aggregator networks, which are also feeding into the LLM. So that's quite cool. Submit your posts to the business. You can do review response automatically, Q&As. This is about to be deprecated by Google, but it still works. And then a bunch of other tasks that are outside of those. This is just other things you need to do on the GBP. So for your business, this I would say is like the fastest ROI that you can get from search engines if you're local.
Before people hop off, on your side, you have the 12 days of Christmas where you're launching new features. You have your um, challenge. Where can people stay up to date on your challenge and your launches?
Mm. The best way to track us is on Facebook. So if you guys are on Facebook, you guys are in the CloseBot community, join our community as well. And we post about all the goings on, all the new product updates and releases. All that's going to be in Facebook. The other thing you can do is you can find me on YouTube. So I'll pop the YouTube link into the chat.
Perfect.
Um, and that's where we'll be having lots of fun. Every time we do this, and every time this is like we've done this once, and we're going to do it again this year. It was so much fun. I give away free stuff. So I give away like free backlinks and free credits and free just lots of get people into the Christmas spirit.
Yeah,
And this year is going to be even bigger than last year. So I'm really excited. I'm stoked.
that's awesome. I will make sure I attend. We have learned from you too. And I got so much out of your 5-day challenge. We have a challenge coming up. opportunity for me to share about that while I have you guys on here. We're doing
Yeah,
a
tell us about it.
database reactivation challenge with Rob Bailey coming up in December. So watch in our Facebook and in our email about that. I'm excited to run my first 3-day challenge, inspired by you guys. So thank you for that. And we
Awesome.
have loads of new features coming out too. I think we're in the same boat where we are so laser focused on our thing. We're both technical experts in our industry and we can push ahead so much faster than anyone else because everyone else doing this is following us. We
Yeah.
are the boats ahead. They can't get ahead of us because we are guiding where the industry goes. That's a fun place to be. And that's
Yeah,
why you're
they're
here,
just copying. They're just trying to replicate and copy the moves we make.
right? Sometimes we, maybe make mistakes along the way, and but by the time we figure it out, go the right course, like they're still doing it the wrong way. And they sometimes forget to like recorrect. That's fun to
Right.
watch.
That is super fun to watch. Yeah. Hilarious. Like an old prompt.
Yeah.
Like an old, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, this was
good.
super cool. Good to have you again, you guys. So, action items. If you do nothing, at least look them up on YouTube. At least now you know what you should be doing for your LLM visibility. You can take action and be part of that 12 Days of Christmas thing so you can get some free stuff and hopefully get your foot in the door with Search Atlas if you haven't already. Any final words from you?
No, just amazing to be here. And I love the CloseBot community. I've like met so many cool people through CloseBot as well. You guys are on a great platform, and Bryce is such a great servant leader that just always is just looking for ways to pour into his community. And something I really just I knew it instantly when I met him, the kind of person that he was. He's got a great soul. So, Bryce, thank you so much for letting me be here, and great to meet all you again.
Thanks, guys. Till next time.
Hasta la pasta.
Bye.
Ciao.